We here at TheyFired Us remain committed to use our platforms and resources to tackle and or provide aid to those affected by harassment, inequality, and racial injustice. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. I said, peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. I said, peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. Peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high.
What's going on? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. This is WTFU presents TheyFired Us, brought to you by the Blue Light Lounge. I am one half of your co-host. I go by the name of Desmond Bonet.
What's up, y'all? Name is Lade.
And here we have I don't even know exactly how I'm gonna intro. I've known this dude, I want to say between 7 to 10 years. That's what it feels like.
Yo, it's.
7.
I think we're in the teens right now when it comes to years.
Might be, man. Just to give y'all, a summary of the topic, I'm gonna go into that if it's cool before I introduce our guest. For today's episode, we're gonna discuss some of the benefits of having a career. When they fired us, we always preach just because they fired you doesn't mean you have to fire yourself. I know the goal is to be entrepreneurs and own something, but there are a lot of people who are doing purposeful work. There's a lot of people working careers that they're happy in. But just like every success, there's always a lot of trials and tribulations. Today's guest is, like I said, somebody I've known for a while. We actually met doing security, just like me and Lade here.
Facts.
The story is extensive. He had a million jobs, got fired from a million, quit a million for a lot of different reasons. But now he's doing something that I like to say is purposeful, man. Welcome, Cedric, Nino the Kid, too. They fired us, man. Appreciate you, bro.
What's going on, brother? What's going on, man? Long time, bro.
Yeah,
Long time. Thanks for having me, too, man.
No problem, man. I don't want to take too much time. We're going to dive straight into the questions because I feel like a lot of the questions are able to kind of navigate into things that are going on right now. 2 episodes ago, we had an episode with, my bad, Choice, Without the Choice. It was about Black women in America. And although today we're talking about, having a career and not necessarily going against having a job, it's still also a Black man in America, which I'm sure he didn't have different experiences, through the different jobs that he's worked. So before we even jump to the questions, I think I want to start off a little with that. Just talk about, your experience being a Black man in America, the different jobs you have worked, if there was any racial injustice, if you experienced anything, within that realm, you could.
I think for a lot of jobs that I've gotten, especially in the beginning of me searching for, my path or trying to find my place in the workforce, I think in the beginning, a lot of the jobs that I accumulated, we're just basic. It wasn't something I wasn't at first. I wasn't looking for a career at first. I was just trying to make some money. I think that's, everybody's first goal is just to make some money. Before you even think about a career, it's just to make some money. So, even where I met you at, Deuce, where me and you, Desmond, where me and you met at, that was a job I met you at, and they fired me twice. Remember that? I got fired from the same job twice. So, and, but it was, I didn't know my worth. So I was accepting certain things from jobs that I wouldn't accept for myself. So it took a little minute for me to find my place. But, I've had a million of them, from YMCA, 1,000 security jobs. I used to do videography and take down wires before they actually finally let me hold the camera. Rapping and doing editorials and just all around, because I'm a writer by nature, all around writing sketch comedy, doing the shows with you, hosting other shows. We've been through a lot, so and we've seen so much and seen so many different faces come and go, and some managed to hold their place, and some just faded in the wind. But it blows like that.
I forgot I forgot the radio show we used to do. Well, just all through that, have you ever dealt with anything racial?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was jobs that I got, and I knew that I knew the job way better than anybody else that was there, and I would get overlooked, for whatever reason, whether the company wasn't feeling like it was racial, but I felt that way, because I'm here working, busting my behind for a year and a half, and then you got somebody that comes in, and in 4 months, the same job that I'm aiming for and busting my behind for, they acquire in 4 months, and they walking in there as a stranger. So I've definitely felt those aspects. I've definitely felt like I've worked for companies that, as when they send you that little flyer, or you get that little that notification in your mail, and it says, "Oh, job hiring for $15 to $22 an hour," and then you go apply for the job, and then they hit you with "Well, we can't pay you 15. We're not even going to talk about 22. We can't pay you 15." And then you get there, you start feeling like, you start asking questions. So all the same people that's in the same room, in the same predicament with you, and then you start hearing, "Oh yeah, I negotiated mine." Whether or not it was an ability that I acquired to negotiate my price, but I felt some kind of way because my darkness kept me from making the buku. When everybody else could come in the door and make the buku, I felt like my darkness was keeping me from it. And for a long time, I felt some type of way. I felt like the only way I was gonna see $100,000 was if I was making illegal money.
Got it. So you said you said previously, before I'm gonna touch base about it, you said the 2 jobs. You said you got fired, from one job 2 times. Did you get fired from the job because of race issues, or it was something you felt like they were racist and then they fired you?
Actually, that company itself was run by Black people.
All right.
No, that company itself was run by Black people, but they fired me for other reasons. It was more so, it was a power struggle in that company. It was run by a Black-owned family, which is respectable, But they just had their own little power struggle amongst themselves, and it was too much of them trying to show each other who was boss. So people became expendable at the entertainment of, well, I can do daddy's job. Daddy can leave me the company.
All right. So you're saying that there was an organizational structure failure within a company, and then based upon that, the budget became effective based upon that, and then they started letting people go.
Right.
All right.
But in terms of like, I didn't really feel the racial injustice from jobs that that I got. I have it, but it's more so of it was less of a white man thing, and it was more of the Blacks versus Hispanics. You get a job with Hispanics, and if you're the only Black guy there, you start to become, how can I say, you become the scarf in the summertime.
All right.
Everybody, it's the dialogue. You don't speak the language, so you never know what comes from that. You know what I'm saying? So now you just become the guy that everybody talks quietly around or tiptoes around when you're in the room.
And speak about that a little bit more, because when, on our previous episodes, we've been just talking about how it really affects like Black versus whites. We really never touched on the Hispanics and Blacks. We mentioned it, but we didn't dissect in it. So being a person who actually lived that firsthand, how did it make you feel? What would you recommend other Hispanics, to be, and aware of,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, you know, when this is addressing this matter?
I could say on this one, I think this is one of those things that I'm an 80s baby. So I grew up around a lot of black men. In the early years of my life, I grew up around a lot of black men who always had the same phrase about this white man that kept them down. Yeah. And the biggest white figure as I was growing up was Ronald Reagan. So I didn't really get to experience the hardships that those men in the 80s was feeling. You know, it was more so like at that time during the 80s, you know, a lot of the black men who was coming home from war, who was just coming out of incarceration, you know, there was a lot of black men in the 80s that was just coming home from something. Plus crack was so big at that time. You know, they was all of the black people, the black community, the Hispanic community was going through some serious issues, especially in New York City, Miami, California, you know, with the way drugs hit then. You know, as I was coming up, getting jobs, my competition was never a white man. My competition was the brown man, the yellow man. My competition wasn't the white man. The white man was the guy you had to get to. And that's what we was all running to it. But that's because none of us know about ownership. None of us know about, you know, becoming entrepreneurs. We all figured that the way to get up, because this is the way our parents were teaching us, the way to get up is you get a job and you become a contributing member of your community. The only problem with that was, as we was in that race, and I grew up in the Bronx, running that race in the Bronx is majority Hispanics. So I'm growing up there. I know the lingo. I know everybody. I know the land, and I can't get a job right here in my home. The same kids I go to school with, their parents own a store, and I can't work with them, but their kids can work there. You know, everything with them became a family industry. So, which is not bad. I think every dynamic should have some type of a basis to fall back on, whether it be family or the dude you built your company with, or just that blueprint. So, which was not a bad thing, but it kept a lot of people from getting certain jobs. Like to this day, I ain't never seen a black man work in a Chinese restaurant. I don't know if y'all ever seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's a minuscule job. Like I'm not even saying this is minuscule. That's a minuscule job. It's not something nobody want to build a career on, unless he's trying to open a restaurant or he want to be a chef. Mm-hmm. But unless he riding that bike, making them deliveries, ain't too many black men. He ain't cooking. He ain't cooking. He don't get the secret of fried rice.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big cultural difference. You know,
right.
like that's not gonna happen at all. You know, because you know the
but
Asians or. No, go ahead.
But I bet you now, and I've seen it myself. An industry like that, I've even seen. There's a restaurant, as a matter of fact, in the Bronx called Sablanturas, and you can go there, run by all Asians, and they speak full Spanish, and they serve Spanish food next to Asian food.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? But nobody in there is Puerto Rican or Dominican.
Yeah, they just catering to the neighborhood, you know?
Exactly. So I understand the dynamic of the business. But at the same time, when I was coming up and when you're young, looking for a job, nobody tells you what jobs to stay away from. Nobody tells you what jobs to run towards. The only thing that they tell you is you're a grown black man, you got to get work.
Go get a job.
You got to get a job. Because there's 3 levels of being a black man. There's the cute stage when you're young, and the most threatening thing you can do is choose daddy over mommy. Then there's teenager to that just about 30 age. That's your most powerful phase. In that powerful phase, we got all of this energy, we got all of this drive, but we don't have the knowledge because nobody gives it to us. We're not being taught by anybody who knew it. And this is just amongst ourselves. I'm not even talking about the white man or anybody else. It's just amongst ourselves. Since we're not educated on it coming up. You know, some people are fortunate to have that education. They are fortunate to have parents that, you know, educate them on this, or just so happen to have gone to a school that put this kind of structure in place to keep these kids from falling off. They wanted these kids to have a future. Ain't too many of these parents, and ain't too many of these kids, and ain't too many of these schools. And in that third place for the black man is like, this is where you just become content with what life is giving. So our glory years are in that from teen to 30, because I don't know what it is. Even Tupac said it. I don't know what it is about America and 30 with black people. It just sucks life and energy right out of you.
Yeah, the quote from Tupac was about in your 30s, that's where like you really stop, and you don't have the energy to fight back. So it's in your 20s that you should do most of the groundwork in a sense. Right. So by the time you're 30, you can just relax, you know, because he says by the time you're 30, the white man kind of kills your drive in order to fight your oppressor, which is actually the white man or white supremacy as we see it.
And it took me a long time to understand that part of it, because again, it was so much that I was leaving behind, because I did not see the white man in my face. When I was trying to get a job at the Gap or Old Navy, Banana Republic, I never stood in front. My interviewer was not a white man. My interviewer was a black man or a Hispanic girl.
Yeah.
And I never met their criteria, but I met their criteria as a customer. And I would tell them how much I love their clothes, love their brand, Macy's too, but couldn't get the job there. And before I realized that, I was like, you know what, maybe I'm aiming, then it started making me feel less of myself and thinking maybe I'm aiming too high. So then I started aiming lower. Instead of trying to be the man in the front of the store who greets you at the door, I ended up becoming the black guy who in the background had the mop. I heard the dope conversations. I heard the great plans. I just wasn't a part of it. I was the dude who came along and swept up the papers after you successfully planned out whatever it is you had going on.
Let me ask you a question right now, because this is a great segue for this question. Why do you think that society has placed black men to feel like that, or only to get those opportunities? You know, and not for some black men, but for the vast majority, you know, like to actually keep us suppressed, to keep us at the bottom. Why do you think, or why do you personally believe it's designed like that for us?
Well, I think you know how there's always a reason for why black men can't come up the way we want to, especially when it comes into working fields. That's why I'm so happy that in 2020, entrepreneurship, ownership is such a big thing. I think black men at that time, we didn't have nothing. We was already separated from our family. Our women just didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? We're choosing. They can be told. Another race could tell another a black woman that their men aren't crack, and they could run with that. It would become topic of conversation. It'd become the joke of the day, you know. And things like that are offsetting. And not only that, when it comes to it, in a lot of workforces, there's an attraction that these owners or founders start with. And a lot of these founders and owners, when they start their brand and they start it, they look at the faces that they envision in their businesses and making them a success. The faces they envision aren't black faces because they don't see wealth on black faces. So the only thing they feel like they're gonna get from a black face is the dollar. The only thing that we're good for to them is to be a customer, is to be a buyer. They're never gonna look at us as equal opportunities and say we can be business partners.
Yeah.
And even on that, even with equal opportunity hires, we got to remember that's a criteria that just needs to happen. It's like going back to school, you got to have pencils. You want to have a business, you gotta have some equal opportunity in it.
Yeah.
But those things come with loopholes. You know what I'm saying? Those things come with loopholes. Equal opportunity just means you could get the job. That don't mean you can come up in it. That just means all I gotta do is hire you and sit you at the front desk. Everybody who walks in, you could probably have the best degree in here, but you sit at the front desk and all you do is answer phones and you say, hello, how you doing? How may I direct you? But you got all of the same knowledge as the person you directed them to, maybe more. So as Black men, we've become content with just taking what somebody gave us, in opposed to realizing, all right, I'm worth more. And I think that's one of the things that as Black people, we got to come in together and just feel like it can't be a topic of conversation at just barbecues or only when Black Lives Matter. It has to be a feeling 24/7 that you deserve more. You're just as good as anybody else. And it has to be a thought process and a lifestyle. We gotta, as Black men, especially as Black men, now we know the white man keeps their foot on our back. Yeah. We know that there's a systematic injustice that has been going on for hundreds of years. The white men that put that in place, they're all dead. The white men who don't know that they're just living on the privilege of it are still here. Some of them want to fight with us. Some of them just are ignorant and don't know. And you have some that know, and that's a small majority. Because I know white people. I got white friends. I've worked with white people. I've had business partners, who are Caucasian. They're not all bad. You know what I'm saying? They're not all bad. But it's how you maneuver in this game, and whatever game that you want to maneuver in, you have to know your wealth. You have to know what your values are, and you have to stand on that. And if you can't get it from the white man, this is 2020. Entrepreneurship and ownership is everywhere. Everywhere. 60% of the rappers on the market right now are owning their own. And that's a step up from the mistakes of their predecessors. They don't do this, they don't have the skill of their predecessors, but they have a better business sense than their predecessors. And that right there is, I gotta accept that. So that, and I think that's where it comes from.
Got it. I think that, dynamic speaks volumes because it all comes down to education and awareness. And I think we also mentioned this in our other episode with Choice, with women on and off, the workplace, especially Black women, that what has held us back is education and awareness.
Right.
And I think that the more we start learning who we are, where we came from, our heritage, and really, really just digest how much wealth and how powerful that we were and still are to this day, right, that we can take over and we can dominate. We can also be like, the Jewish people and have our own communities. We can also be like the Asians and have our own dry cleaners and Chinese restaurants and other businesses. We can do this. It doesn't have to be just Harlem, which just has that 125th Street, full of, Black businesses. It doesn't have to be some parts of Flatbush or some parts of, the Bronx. It needs to be worldwide.
Business is probably the last segregation left. One of the last segregation. Well, it's blatantly in your face.
Yeah. It's like a big smack in the face. It's a big one, especially now with the gentrification. Which is a different topic. Like the Bronx is really like the last in New York that's being gentrified right now, and I appreciate you guys for fighting that battle for us. But I think, it just goes back to, just awareness, education, and, trying to tell these people, and I want to be careful of how I choose my words, because there's some black, folks who want the education, they want the awareness, they want the knowledge. And then there's some black folks who don't care. They think that these things don't apply to them. These things don't pertain to them. So we need to I don't know the right word, but we need to drive this matter home, because this is a severe matter.
This needs to be, when it comes down to black success in America, when it comes down to black finances, black ownership, black entrepreneurship, black arts, black technology.
Yeah.
These all things, they all have a title, but none of them have a curriculum.
Yeah.
So now, when you have huge figures, let's take, now I love Oprah. Let's take Oprah for example. Oprah has 1 million different channels. She has schools in Africa. She has she's done so much, in terms of helping kids get put on with college. Okay, very good. Okay. Having these things, she's done a lot. So, but the one thing that I haven't seen is a publication on any of her channels that educate the black community on ownership, on
she's not going to do it.
No. The reason being is, if Oprah was sitting across from one black person, you, i.e., Oprah sitting across from you, she's dropping knowledge, and you sitting there soaking it all up. That's one person. That's a rational thinker. That's one person.
Yeah.
And Oprah has, the sway and the power to speak to a vast majority at one time.
Of course.
Especially when it comes to black women. Not even just black women, even white women live and die by Oprah. Let Oprah say, read a book. You won't see your wife's eyes for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Especially during the holiday time, when she be like, buy this product, buy that product. They all sell.
So, and even when you think about it this way, even when the dropout rate for African Americans and Hispanics were high, because it actually dropped. More and more African Americans and Hispanics are graduating. When the dropout rate was so high, you had all of these schools who were getting government funding. All they had to do was keep the doors open and do GED classes. Nothing extra came from that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until after you got your GED that you realized you spent all your time getting this and feeling nervous, checking that little box on every application about whether or not you had it or not, just for them, no one to look at it.
Yeah.
They don't even ask you for it.
Yeah, and now we living in the days where you can even have your masters or your doctors, or your PhD, and it's still nothing, like you,
right.
I know people with a master's degree that's working retail, it's just like.
It's true.
Well, I think, and I don't know, I have never myself been to a historically African American college or black college.
Yeah.
I've never myself got to experience that wave of life. I would have loved to. I'm aspiring right now for my kids to be able to experience, the option of college, preferably a black one, I hope. And I only want that, and I'm only saying a black one because I would want for them to go into a college that's going to teach them the opposite of black struggle. Everybody knows black struggle. You don't even have to be black to know black struggle. You just know it. But the story of black perseverance is the story nobody really tells, unless you you end up being the celebrity. Without being a celebrity, the story of Black perseverance is worthless in the United States because those stories don't get told. Those are the ones you see on Facebook, and it's like, well, I'm Black and I graduated college, but I bet nobody will share my picture.
Well, let me dissect for a minute. The story is told, but it's monetized.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is told, but it's monetized. Just like you said, rappers. Just like you said, like for example, if you want to go back to Oprah, Oprah, or even Ellen DeGeneres, they would interview, a young Black kid, and then that young kid would go viral. But then,
Right.
The companies are making money off that, person. It's never done in a genuine, sincere manner. It's always to make money. Either the person, as in Oprah or Ellen DeGeneres or etc., is making money off that person, or the entity, meaning that the company that they work for, which equals to white people, the majority Jewish people, are still collecting the money, which still leaves us back at square one.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're systematically, and it's gonna take years. It's nothing that we can protest about. It's something that we have to educate.
Yeah.
The protest is just gonna make you aware that this is going on. It's gonna make you aware that at some point that these services will become available. Because now there are people that are noticing that. Like I said, all of these things have a name, but none of them have a curriculum. And especially in the New York City schools, they don't teach kids about finances. You know how you learn about finances? You go broke.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You go broke. And
Yeah.
I think for Black folks, majority of us are born on sweat that still pours. We're born to parents who are not coming from generational wealth, but they're still sweating trying to get it right now. So we're born on sweat that still pours.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
you're
don't have
absolutely
the luxury of, unless we've dedicated our lives to something. We don't never really get the luxury of bumming around Europe for a couple of months after high school. A lot of Black kids will never know that experience.
Yeah. Or having the experience to move to a new city, and if we don't like it, be able to move back home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, even that happens a lot more now, because so many different cities that used to be, when if you look at the old pictures and you see all the old burnt down buildings, especially back in New York from when the slumlords was burning down the buildings, collecting all the insurance.
Yeah.
You look at all of those buildings, you see those Black faces in front of those neighborhoods. Now that gentrification is set in, it's a lot more diversity over there. You start to see Susie doesn't mind jogging in that area now.
I live in the area where there used to be nothing but burned down buildings. I'm still I'm in that area now, and to see how it looks now and the people that you're liable to bump into versus back then,
Right.
it's crazy.
Right. So it's now, and remember back in the 80s, I don't know if y'all remember this. I don't know if y'all remember when Juice came out. It was a fear. There was a fear that the white man had for us. If we were clustered up, we did something, or we're planning something, we doing something. There was a fear that they had for us back then.
Mm-hmm.
Walking down the street, they get real close to the edge. They got away from us. Now it's different. We've okayed too much. Our community has okayed too much.
Yeah.
We've allowed many. We've shared our style, our swag, and so much with the world that we don't have much fun. We keep changing it. That's the one thing we do. We update it every year, every few months. My 4 kids, I didn't want them, especially with my oldest, I didn't want to find failure. I didn't want them to have to go through that 10-year, 15-year period of, I gotta find myself because my parents couldn't do it for me because I was the prototype.
Yeah.
and this is a period. It's a reality for a lot of firstborns. It's some. If you want to get the parents on the right page, as a parent, once you find out your kid is sexually active, I think they should be given sexual parenting classes, not just parenting classes that teaches them about condoms and STDs. No, teach them about, you got to get up every morning when this kid get up. Teach them that kids are cute when they're not throwing up. Teach them that, everybody's not designed to be a babysitter. Everybody's not designed to be around your kid. Every things you listen to and like to do should not be exposed to your kids. If you thought the Hot Girl Summer song was dope, why is your 3-year-old singing that song, twerking and gyrating and so much? It's certain things that we expose our kids to so early, and those things resonate with them. Kids are sponges. Things that may not be on the surface today, it will definitely surface when they turn 11, when they turn 15, when they turn 17, because these, between the ages of 8 and the ages of 15, they're searching for their identity in their place in whatever general community that they're in.
You know what? It's funny you said that too, because and this is I wanna state this clear. This is no disrespect, but even like little kids who are starting to do music, like that girl her red carpet, Zaza,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? Her name is Zaza. Like, she's a little singer. Her Instagram, her Instagram is Red Carpet Girls. Like, even seeing like her and dancing and singing all the the rap songs and stuff like that. In the back of my head, I always play like all her parents teaching her, the basic principles. Just like what you just said. Like, are they instructing her about, all right, this is your career, but this is what life is about. Or
Right.
their parents think that it's too young and we're just gonna let her go through this phase, and then when she becomes a teenager, she'll figure it out. Because most parents have the thought process of, my child is just gonna figure it out. Like, subconsciously, they're just gonna know.
Yeah.
No.
Right now, I think success on social media is still fairly new. I can't give social media success a general outcome, because the outcome hasn't happened yet. This generation is the foundation of
Social media.
Social media success.
Mhm.
So in another 20 years, we'll see what happens. To how many Corey Haynes we got living around, how many Corey Feldmans we got walking around. Child. In my day, they were called child stars.
Yeah.
And then they grew up to be, a bunch of, either they went to jail, did porn, did drugs, OD, whatever. We'll see what this level of stardom does. If it can be something that the repercussions are little to none, great. But we can't really predict where it's going to take them, because, again, it's the mentality of not just the people creating the content, and the content is being created by children. It's not just the mentality of the people creating the content. It's also going to be about when the mentality matures. When the mentality of the viewer matures, do you pass this same element down to your kids, or do you wait for the element to mature with you?
And that's going to be the posing question. That's going to be.
Again, that remains to be seen, because, again, there's a lot of education that's still missing.
Yeah. That's going to be the fine line between a parent and a child.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of education that's still missing. So even when one of my oldest daughter, when I found out that she was sexually active, it became a thing of, I've been preparing myself for this for years. Years. This is like, I always looked at, my son becoming sexually active. I always looked at my son like, once you start, humping, you're not my problem. You're some poor girl's problem and her family's problem. They're going to be worried about what you do. They're going to be worried about 100% of the man and character that she allowed into her life, her body, and her spirit. That's going to be their problem.
He was actually talking about something along those lines in the previous episode. It's the difference between how daughters are looked at when it comes to being sexually active versus the son.
Yeah, I was always prepared for that. As a man, with daughters, I had to prepare myself mentally. I had to prepare myself emotionally for the day that my daughter brings home some dude that I don't like. I had to prepare myself for the day that my daughter is holding hands or displaying public affection with some dude that I can generally say is probably not good enough for my kid. But then this is something that comes with the pride of being a parent. If you're proud of your kids, there's going to be a lot of people on the planet that you're going to deem not worthy. But your daughter or your son is going to look at like, we're equals. This is who I want. This is who I value. So on those things, you got to be prepared for that.
I just want to stop you right there because I feel like this conversation could just keep going on and on. And if right now, while we're on camera, if you agree to it, definitely think we could definitely do a part 2, maybe even a part 3.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we get out of here, once again, my fault, to cut you off, but I just really wanted to drive it home to why you was here, man. The job that you have now, going back to that ACS, and just throughout the whole conversation we've been having about different generations, and even you now just talking about your kids. What are you doing personally to kind of, for lack of a better term, and then, you can talk about the program that you have specifically more.
Okay, right now I'm a youth specialist with my company. So I definitely work with a lot of troubled youth coming out of any incarceration, court mandates, or anything like that. A lot of these kids are coming to me with no monetary value within themselves. So the one thing that I want to instill in them to hopefully keep them from repeating the same path is giving them a gift that they can't place anywhere and leave it behind. So I specialize in music and I specialize in writing, creative writing. That's my strength in life. Is the one thing I could do and I don't need a boss for. So I figured if we can instill
fire writing sessions. My fault to interrupt. I just had to say.
Yes, definitely.
We had some fire writing sessions back in the day, man.
Yes, we did. So even with that, I feel like if we can install a gift in these kids that don't come with shoelaces or somebody else's name across your chest, something that we can instill here and let it build value here so that it can shine outwards. I think that every kid needs that, whether they can draw, whether they can rap, sing, dance, or even if you're the next businessman. Let's get these kids into something that caters to what they're actually into, what they're actually aspiring for. Right now, they're only getting what we can give them. So if every kid wants to be the next superstar, they're showing us with their phones. They're showing us. And they have the personality, they have the charisma, they have all of these things that are valued to be on somebody's TV and to generate networks and to generate crowds. If we can give them these things and put it here so that it's something that's now they know and they can teach, they become a weapon of value, knowledge, and resource. And once you become that,
I like that.
The value in yourself becomes so great. You don't want to see yourself behind bars because you go to waste. It's like leaving a fruit on the table. It looked good for the first 3-4 days. Now it got brown spots on it. I want them to be able to come out of this program, for however many months that they're mandated to stay with us through the courts. I want them to come out of this program and have something that they didn't have before. And part of that is knowledge of knowing that they have the ability now to do something that's better than the norm. And the norm being gang banging and just thuggery. You know what I'm saying? So I want them to see that there's alternatives to everything. There's a flip side to everything. If you want to rap, you don't have to be, you know, a gangster rapper. Hell, if you want to rap but you're afraid of cameras, you can just write songs. If you're a person with a great eye and a dope camera, let's get these kids into programs where they can receive. Right now, when the schools shut down, every kid in the city practically got an iPad for free. Why can't we give certain kids a easel and some paintbrushes, or give them a computer with a dope art program on it? Another kid could get a computer with a production program on it. When you know that, and don't get me wrong, I know that there's a money issue. They gotta come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. But we have too many resources that look at us, speak on us in their press conferences, and aren't a contribution. So at the end of the day, if you really want to start getting value into these kids, like what I'm doing, I'm trying to give them value at a place where people deem them worthless.
Ooh, that's dope.
Once these kids start getting into the system and they're getting arrested, the court system kind of sets them up for, oh, we'll put you in this group home, we'll put you here, and we want to see what happens. If these group home people cannot condition you to want to be a productive member of society, we got cells waiting for you. And it's a fact. By second grade, they're already, based on your grades in second grade, they're building jails based on that. Things like that, and that's a fact. Things like that are a thing. So when we get these kids at 15, 16 years old, and they're so lost, because all they have is Bud, the homies, and I don't go home till 4 o'clock in the morning. Me and my mom smoke blunts together, or me and my dad, I done popped a couple chicks with my dad. These are relationships you have with your friends, not with your children. And even if that's a relationship you're trying to have with your kid, let them become 30 first.
Word.
You feel what I'm saying? You, as a parent, you and your child are never going to be equal, because you are a source of knowledge. You are a source of love. You are a source of so many different things that you need to nurture your child. What my program is doing, we are not designed to be parents. We are designed to be an authoritative figure to get them used to structure and stability, things that they lacked in the real world. Once they can get structure and stability back placed into their lives, and it becomes standard, teaching them things like the art of writing, drawing, tattoo artists, barbers, any of these things becomes so much easier, because now they realize that there's steps to it. I'm not going to learn in a day, but I can become a professional in 5 months.
Yeah. It's almost like that. It's almost like that quote from Tupac, you know, like he knows he's not gonna change the world, but he might spark the idea in that person who's gonna change the world. So it's almost like the same thing.
I think that's the ultimate goal of ACS in general. And I don't want to speak too highly on ACS, you know, because there has been their moments, there's been their follies in history. You know, I don't know if you ever heard of the case of Nix Marie Brown, beautiful little girl who the system failed her and she lost her life. And in light to that, the system tried to fix its mistakes by just taking calls and flooding the system with kids unlawfully, unjustly, without real cause. And a lot of these kids are lost today. The parents are lost today because they're still trying to fight the good fight of getting their kid back. You know,
like I said before, we could definitely keep going, but I think you said a lot of important things, made a lot of great points. I know, me and you talked about doing something else, but reason why I wanted to have you on this show specifically and have you on as a guest is because it pushes the narrative of not everyone needs to go into the direction of building something completely on their own.
Right.
And what I mean by that, like I said in the beginning, you know, you worked a lot of jobs, got fired from, quit a lot. And something that we preach here all the time is don't fire yourself. No matter how down you are, no matter what situations is going on, don't just move as if you're a subpar person. Live and work to your fullest potential.
The second an individual starts to devalue themselves, and if you lose a job and you feel like you're worthless now, that's the pinnacle of left or right. If you feel you're not finding value in yourself, you're either gonna go gun ho to get that value, to become the person that you want to be heard, to be seen, to get the impact that you want to leave on the world, or you're gonna be content behind the mop, behind the register, or hanging up those shirts in Old Navy.
I don't need to say no more. That right there was perfect, man. We appreciate everybody for tuning in to yet another episode. I'm one half of this extraordinary team. I am Desmond Bonet.
I'm Lade.
And this was They Fired Us, brought to you by the Blue Light Lounge, man. Until next time, we appreciate y'all.
Peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. I said, peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. I said, peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high. Peace, tranquility. Roll up the weed and get high.